Is this a hunting camp or a office for you?
This is actually my little hunting cabin up the
Nice,
road from my house.
nice.
So I've got a real small separate property up from the road from the house. It actually was on the property when we bought it, and it was literally just a dark, dank 12 by 24 shed.
Mm-hmm.
It was well, I know you've seen them in the parking lots. They got the little bitty porch on the front
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
with the green metal roof. That's what it was. And my wife and we just kind of really turned it into something different. Added a bunch of windows, brought a bunch of light in and redid it in knotty pine, and it's been awesome. We've turkey hunted out of it. We've whitetail hunted out of it. I got it. It runs off of a generator. I got
nice.
a little Predator generator sitting out back that it runs off of. So it's awesome. Wood
Sweet.
fireplace. Sleeps about 8 people if you want.
Dang.
So
Yeah, that's the real deal. I haven't I he just got back from work and I got here a couple hours ago and been setting up or whatever, so we haven't talked a whole lot, but that idea right there is pretty cool. Something that maybe we ought to think about doing ourselves, cuz like at some point it would be nice to just have a place where you can hang out and have
yeah,
close to where you're hunting and everything. And I mean, it doesn't take
yeah,
much, you know.
yeah. I'm a half a mile from my house, my actual house, but I touched on it on our phone conversation. So I live far enough out that I have satellite internet, and it is horrible, absolutely horrible. It's none of this Elon Musk,
Yeah.
space link stuff or whatever. It's like the really bad stuff that they still charge you an arm and a leg for.
Yeah.
But so yeah, up here at the cabin, I've got really good cell phone reception, so I'm able to hotspot my laptop off of the phone and get it done. So
Yeah, the hotspot thing has been a real game changer for us. Like, I recorded a podcast one time. I was in Virginia and I just drove to the top of a mountain and had enough cell phone service that I could record the entire
yeah,
podcast, no problems with the audio or anything, just from the hotspot. And I mean, it's pretty crazy how far that's come, honestly.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
gonna
It's
just
it's
continue to get crazier, I'm sure.
oh yeah, yeah, for sure. But I am lucky because they actually started pulling some fiber optic out in front of the house, so I'm gonna have the real stuff here pretty soon. So
Yeah,
that's
it's
nice.
game changer because I got it in
Yes.
Colorado and I can upload a YouTube video. Used to take us, I mean, at times when we'd be in some McDonald's parking lot, it would take us a couple, well, anywhere from 2 to 6 hours, and I can
Uh-huh.
upload it, 30-minute YouTube video in like 8 minutes. It's
That's
it's
crazy.
stupid. It's so stupid fast, like
Yeah, that's
life
crazy.
changing. It makes it feel like it kind of annoys you too because it's like, well, we wait. Think about how much time we wasted when we didn't have this sitting, and you're just watching it
Yeah,
slowly go. But yeah,
yeah,
times are changing, I guess.
yeah.
But
It's getting better.
buddy of ours had
So
this little mobile thing where I think it might have been the Elon Musk thing where it's like this little satellite that's in a box and he can just take it wherever he wants as long as he's got power and he can see clear, essentially
yeah.
get it facing the sky. It works.
Huh.
So I don't know. Might
That's
be
like
some.
that Steven Seagal Navy SEAL stuff. Remember from Under Siege? He was
No,
doing the whole
uh,
back when Steven was cool.
I think that I get one of those on top of my truck, and with my tent on my truck and with satellite internet on top of my truck, then we'll really be a mobile content machine.
No kidding, no kidding. Yeah, that's crazy. I haven't seen one of those. I'm sure Elon Musk has something to do with that one too.
Have you seen the actual trail of stars yet go across the sky? Have you seen that?
No,
Oh, it's
Have you
weird.
seen
Oh
it?
yeah, it'll throw you off.
It's the
would it?
it's the star. I think it's Starlink,
Starlink, yeah.
and it's the first time I saw it would have been in 2021 spring. I was in Oregon, and we were standing there at turkey camp, and we're looking at the stars and whatever, all just hanging out, eating dinner, and all of a sudden, somebody's like, "What's that?" And there's just this perfect trail of what looks like stars, and they're in a line, and I don't know how many of them there are, but it's just this perfect line, and it goes, you know, just the same speed all the way across the sky and then
Like,
just eventually disappears.
way too fast for it to
Yeah.
be a shooting star. You're like, what in the world?
Yeah, well, it's
No,
not.
I mean slow to be a shooting star, but too
Right.
fast to be an airplane.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's
So it
kind
was a
of.
line of satellites or
Yeah.
something?
Yep. It's eerie.
Wow.
And then it just gets to a point where apparently it's far enough away that we can't see it anymore. And it's almost like it's just disappearing, it just goes away. Because you watch it go right across the sky and then eventually just one by one they just start disappearing. It's a weird thing. And I've seen it, I think I've seen it twice. I think I saw it in Oregon and I think I saw it in Montana. Where have you seen it?
Ohio.
Ohio. Yeah, it's weird, man. It's definitely
I
something.
wonder if there's like certain seasons where you can see it in certain areas and you can't in others.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, and I don't know how it works or like how frequent it comes past, but it's definitely a weird. I mean, it's not. It's definitely not something that you expect to see out there, but
Right.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a weird one, but
Yeah.
I think we're just gonna get right into it, and like I haven't shown Ben the vest at all. He stepped
Okay.
on it under the blanket earlier because he didn't know it was there, but it's sitting
Okay.
here kind of tucked behind everything, and I've told him about it a little bit, but I figured it'd be cool to have him kind of asking questions because I feel like it might be easy for us to take it or take for granted like what we know about it. So I figured it'd be
Right.
cool to have him, and then I guess for people listening, tell a little bit about yourself, a little background, and what you do with Tethrd, and yeah, I mean anything and everything you want to say about yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm Carl Kossuth. I'm a chief designer and co-owner with Tethrd. Since we started day one, me and Greg and Ernie and a few other guys back in 2018, about the same time you guys kicked off.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep. I think like our first year, it would have been like the summer after our first season. It was when you guys or Greg and Ernie came out to Iowa there, and
Yep.
our first experience with saddles.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was a full-time detective when we started.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
Whoa.
that.
Yeah. I'd been a cop for I was once Tether kind of took off and it became a real thing. I think I was able to get an early retirement in 2019 and then just came right on over. So yeah, I was started off as a county deputy and worked in the city, the city of Rolla, I guess you'd say. It's not a big city. Yeah, for a little over 10 years, just had a lot of fun, did the whole SWAT thing. I was prior military back in the day, and I've built houses quite a bit. I've worn a lot of hats.
Yeah.
But as far as the sewing side of things, I learned how to sew in 7th grade home ec class.
Nice.
I don't even think they teach it anymore.
I learned it in 7th grade home ec class too. So
Okay.
they did it
'Cause
at least however many years ago that was.
Okay. So yeah, I learned how to sew in 7th grade home ec, and our project was a cooking apron for our moms. And my mom still has it, still wears it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
But yeah, I went in the military, out of high school and, didn't do much as far as gear making or anything like that. Bounced around the world a couple times. Got out of the military. I worked on sailboats and yachts doing custom welding. I was on a professional sailing team. So that was a ride. I for anyone if you can get into that. That was a lot of fun. And then I ended up just kind of migrating back home, and here I am. But what started my kind of sewing career, I guess you would say, when I knew that it had some, it made sense to have the skill. I had saved up all of my hay hauling money back when we used to do square bales, and I bought the very first Gen 1 Realtree camo clothing option from Walmart. And I think it was like $60 for the pants and the shirt. And that was a lot of money, especially to a kid.
Yeah.
And that was actually back when opening day of archery season was still on October 1st. and not September 15th.
Mm-hmm.
So opening day of archery season, I promptly tore the entire crotch out of the pants crossing the barbed wire fence. It was like, I don't know if it was daylight yet. So I get back home. I'm pretty frustrated. I'm looking at them, and they tore just in this weird jagged tear. And then I remembered that my mom had a sewing machine. So I threaded it up and found an old pair of denim jeans for a patch for behind it. I zigzag stitched that thing back together, and that's how it all started for me. So
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, I always kind of tinkered around in my off time, whenever I was mainly after I'd been a police officer for quite a while. So I would tinker around. A buddy got me into building very lightweight, ultra lightweight backpacking elk hunting shelters, like sil nylon, Cuban fiber, that type of stuff. Built a lot of those. Those paid for my first 2 elk hunts that I went on, my over-the-counter backpacking elk hunts.
Nice.
Just selling those to guys on Rock Slide and different forums and stuff like that.
So when you tinker, like, obviously the shelters and stuff, but just in like modifying gear, just stuff like that in general, or
Yeah.
you find a problem and then you just are like, okay, I can just find a way to fix this, and doing stuff like that.
Yeah, or sometimes there's absolutely nothing wrong with the product, and I would create a problem because I thought I could make something better.
Yeah.
But no, most of the time I would get a hold of something, and just kind of the way my mind works, I would be like, I could do this to it and make it better. And yeah, you're exactly right. That's kind of how a lot of this evolved.
That's sweet.
Is just a lot of it was just improving upon existing stuff that I would get a hold of.
Yeah.
So
my brother is a little bit better than I am at that. He does a lot of stuff even in the field. He does specifically now he's doing dog sledding stuff up in northern Minnesota, but he's also done a lot of canoeing stuff. So he has a pretty good knack of doing that stuff, and then in the field, but then also when he gets home, like just to save money and keep things alive for longer. But I'm more the type to be like, hey, Mom, you got this nice sewing machine. See if you can either fix this or modify it in some way. And I've never really got any good at it, but honestly, I'm jealous of it a little bit. I wish it's something that, there's still time, but it's like,
oh yeah,
it's a cool, that's a really cool skill to have.
Well, and the thing is, it's pretty attainable if you're mechanically inclined at all.
Mm-hmm.
If you can use your hands at all, you can learn to sew. And there's just mountains of information out there, especially on YouTube and different things. But yeah, I used to get asked all the time, like, I want to start sewing. What's the best thing to start with? And the answer is the same every time. Half the time, if you go to grandma's house, you're going to find an old sewing machine buried somewhere in a closet or a basement. And if it's at grandma's, it's probably going to be a good one. Like from back in the 50s and 60s and early 70s, they're all metal. There is no plastic on them at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these things are built, and they'll build some very, very, they'll punch some serious thread through a lot of layers of webbing and corridor fabrics and stuff like that. But yeah, for the most part, I say go to Craigslist, go to a yard sale, find one, and get those older ones because they work a lot better. You'll shell one of these plastic ones from Walmart out like that, trying to build the type of gear that we run.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your first project with Tethrd?
The Mantis.
Nice.
Yep, that was the very first saddle that we launched. And how that came about was I had just come off of I guess it would have been the 2017 season. So season was just finished, and I had hunted primarily on the ground. For most of my hunting career, I've hunted with traditional equipment. So I was hunting off the ground, but mainly because I was tired of climbing tree stands, and I had even done some cutting and welding and hacking on some aluminum lock-ons, trying to really pare them down to make them more portable and mobile. And I still wasn't really satisfied with what I had. So the season was over, and I got on Google and I did a Google search for a So it would have been 2018. So it was newest lightweight, ultralight tree stand 2018. That was like my search. And I hit images. And I started scrolling down the images, and like 3 or 4 rows down, I saw a picture of a saddle. And it was actually an Arrow Hunter Kestrel.
I was
They were
hoping
pretty much the only.
I was hoping it was going to be a picture of Ernie.
No. I don't know. I don't know if that's the search I would have found Ernie in.
Could have been a lot of other things, and you might have got him.
Yeah.
But... Sorry, like just goofing off.
No, that's a good point. But no, I saw that thing, and I started kind of finding all the pictures I could find of it, and it was really the only like modern hunting saddle that was out there. And they're primarily an arborist company, so it was very substantial. When I looked at it,
big and bulky. You mean?
Yeah,
substantial.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. And I looked at it, and I was able to get a few pictures of it, just online. And I thought, man, I think I can make one of these, because by then I'd already been making a lot of the shelters and doing some different type of small packs and pouches and different things like that. So, my DIY game was getting there. I was doing fairly well at it, and had a pretty good grasp of what I needed to do. And I thought I could build this by looking at the pictures. Now, granted, I'd never held one in my hand, so I was guessing on the dimensions of this thing and the cup and everything. So in the meantime, I'd been lurking on saddlehunter.com. I hadn't really posted anything. I was kind of taking it all in and learning about it, because I thought this is something I could really get into right here, because of it already lent itself to being very modular, mobile, and high speed, low drag. And so I was really on there quite a bit. And I decided that kind of my first post was going to be a build along of this saddle. And that's what I did. It was called the DIY Kestrel Clone. And I did it with photos stage by stage of the build and little summaries of each stage, and finished it out. And the response was like incredible. I think a lot of the guys out there thought that there was a bunch of little elves in a cave that had magic sewing powers and were making saddles and nobody else could. But that showed them, that you can do this. Yeah. And timing is everything in life, right? Mm-hmm. So it just so happened that while I was doing that, Greg and Ernie had just met at Saddlepalooza down at Greg's, and they had decided to start a saddle hunting company. And I mean, we're talking, this is like within weeks of each other, probably a month at most from whenever that happened. And then I put this build on there, and the next thing you know, Greg was contacting me, because I had some pretty good photos on there of my stitching and stuff like that. And Greg's contacted me, and he says, "Hey, would you be interested in doing some prototyping for a saddle?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And he said, "Well, will you sign an NDA?" And I was like, first of all, I had to Google NDA real quick. I didn't know what it was. And that's all it was. And I'm like, I think he's serious, I was like, okay. So, that's how it started. And Greg sent me a cardboard box. He's still full-time in the Army. Ernie's still full-time mechanical engineering at his job. And so Greg scrapes together this box, this little, just scruffy box of material for me to make the first Mantis prototypes out of. And that was the beginning. It was kind of me and Greg were working on the saddle side of things, and then Ernie and like Garrett Prawl were working on the Predator side of things. And that's how it all started.
That's sweet.
Yeah, that's wild. The timing, like you said, is and it's crazy that it got up and going that quick, because I know we didn't have them in 17, because that was kind of the year that I kind of got fed up with, it was the official fed up with a hang and hunt tree stand setup. For me, I had like hung it up that season. But then in 2018, when we started using the saddles, it's like, okay, this is definitely a tool in the toolbox for me, because it's legit. You can actually like carry it and pack it quietly, and it just was this whole different option that was so much better than the tree stand previously. And then to kind of go back in time though, from my experience, and probably 2015 or 16, I want to say it was the ATA show. I bumped into somebody from, what was the brand that you mentioned earlier? That
Arrow Hunter.
Arrow Hunter. So they had this tiny little table in the back corner. I mean, nobody was over there. And I remember going up and having a conversation with a guy there and just was amazed at this setup. Like, I'm sitting there holding it, feeling it, and I'm like, dude, this is the answer. Like, this is the future. And I remember going back and telling everybody, like, that thing was sweet, because in my mind it was going straight to, if you're going to travel out of state to hunt, you don't have to carry, you don't have to bring sticks, you don't have to bring multiple tree stands. Like, and at that time too, when I first held a saddle, we were transitioning from hanging stands every season, pulling them, and going more to full-time hang and hunt. And as that's happening, I see this saddle, and it's like, that's the future. And then sure enough, it all plays out with you and Greg and Ernie, and then Tethrd becomes a thing, and it, kind of goes maybe 2 or 3 steps up, and it's like, it's absolutely the answer. This is it. And I feel like it really is just giving people more. Yeah, and it's giving people so many options. It's truly incredible, and it's been a thing for a long time though. Like, in the grand scheme of it, like, Eberhardt's used them for forever, and I remember my dad talking about them when I was a kid. Like, man, a guy ought to get one of those. I'd love to hunt out of one of those.
The big buck sling and all those. I mean, those were back in the, when I was 4 or 5 years old. Probably there was guys swinging around in those things.
Yeah.
I remember going to the Missouri Deer Classic when they used to still have it, and I remember I went there like 2 years in a row, and it was the second booth on the right. As soon as I went in the door, and the same guy was in this tree, I mean, just getting it with this 46-inch axle-to-axle Hoyt bow with wood limbs, just going nuts up there in that thing. And I always was intrigued by it, but I never got my hands on one. So yeah, it's, we didn't invent it. We just kind of brought it screaming and kicking into the modern age,
Yeah.
It was the hunting community was ready.
Yeah.
It was time. It was just a really good time to bring it.
And I think it was really that transition for a lot of people where it's like, man, the effort that it takes to hang stuff and pull it down every season, or in some states it's been a thing for forever that you have to pull it down daily. To do that's a lot of work. So if you're gonna commit to pulling, and speaking on public land specifically, but that style was definitely becoming more and more popular, and climbers, kind of gave it a chance there for a while, and there's still good options for climbers as well. I mean, we used climbers there for a while when we were, high school through college, all that time frame. I mean, we almost exclusively used climbers, but again, it's like, it gets to a point where it wears you out. It's like, I honestly can say that deer hunting used to burn me out when I would carry those big bulky things all the time. And the timing of the saddles, and the tethered saddle specifically. And one of the things that I always liked about Tethrd was the message of, you don't have to buy a tethered. You guys are just trying to get saddle hunting more in the mainstream. Like, just trying to get in front of people to say, hey, this is a tool in your toolbox. If you want it, it's there.
Right. And yeah, it was, and of course, I mean, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a little bit biased,
Oh, for sure.
I really think that we build some superior gear when it comes to the saddle hunting space. But at the same time, like you said, when we started, I would say, it's a tool for your toolbox. And then as it progressed, and the more personal experience I had with it, I'm like, man, this is my only tool. As far as elevated, hunting elevated.
Yeah, and that's the same. I mean, honestly, I feel the same way, and I don't do it very much, but when I do hang and hunt, and get in an elevated position, it's like a no-brainer. It's so easy, and it really, for somebody who hunts on the ground so much and enjoys it for the aspect of not having anything extra, not making much noise, nothing hanging off of you, to put the saddle and some super lightweight sticks. Like, I started using the one stick, I believe, is that super light one, and I got that puppy all. I mean, I would love to know how many hours at night there for a while I'd spent putting stealth strips on those things. I got them every centimeter of those puppies. I got them, and it's awesome because you can just slap that stuff on your back. It's no extra weight. It's not going to make any noise, and you can wear the saddle. And I know, like, Aaron, a lot of times will wear his saddle. I feel like Aaron's the perfect example of utilizing having it on you at all times, but being, or adjusting in the moment. Mm-hmm. Like, he shot that one buck that one time where he was with Gooch, where he gets out of the tree stand and gets out of the tree and he's still wearing his saddle and he's just stalking the buck. And I think that's just what's so cool about it, is it's versatile. And I mean,
when you can get down a tree that quick and get around on a deer like that and then make it happen, I mean, that's saying something about that type of a method and that type of equipment. Mm-hmm. And he even had to come down sticks.
Yep.
I'm a single stick climber. I rappel down.
You're
so
wild.
I could have hit that. I could have been on the ground like that.
Yeah.
And that's another thing about the saddles is that, and it inevitably it happens to me usually 2 or 3 times a year, and it's always during the rut. I get out before gray light. I get up in a tree because I know I'm on a doe bedding area, thinking I know where the bucks are going to be coming by to scent check that area. And the first 1.5 or 2.5-year-olds come through, and I'm 40 yards off the mark. Mm-hmm. And so at that point, I'm like, okay, these guys came through here. Other bucks are likely going to do the same thing. So just hop down and just relocate, get a little closer, and hop back up. And you can do it quick and you can do it quiet.
Yeah.
You just can't do that, with a lot of with climbers and mobile tree stands and stuff like that. You can, obviously, there's nothing that can't be done, but the efficiency's not there, and then you got the noise factor as well.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely
that's what I like about the saddle.
It's been a game changer for that, for sure. I mean, being max mobile, I think, is just becoming more and more realistic for more people when they find, how to utilize all these tools. It's like, if you can do the one stick method, or, if you're willing to just not have any ties to anything, you're just like, you know what, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to have this gear, and I'm going to just do whatever the situation calls for. It really does open up so many doors. And I think it's pretty cool to see how much it's changed, like, essentially overnight. I mean, you think about how long
I hunt off the ground with my saddle frequently. There was 3 times up in North Dakota that I can think of. My first hunt of last year, the first time, I was one stick off of the ground. I was above the weeds because I was actually hunting over this creek bed that they were crossing. So my shot would have down to the ground was probably 12 feet, but I was like 3 feet off the actual ground where I climbed the tree.
Yeah.
It was just silly. You can actually literally just ground hunt just by tethering in and be very comfortable. We had another situation where we didn't have a lot of cover, but we had some weeds all around us that were, probably 3 feet or so. And what I actually found is you can get on your knees in your saddle, but get on your knees on the ground and then tether in and cinch up. And then you're on your knees, but there's no weight on you're just kind of floating there.
That's great.
Sweet.
You know what I mean?
That's great. Yeah.
And you can knee walk on the ground around the tree and still do everything. Yeah. It was cool.
I'm gonna have to try that. That's pretty cool.
I like that.
We sat there for about 3.5 hours, and me and my cameraman, and we were good. I mean, it was like we just invented it right there on the fly. At least it was new to us. And it worked really well. I think one of my favorite things, though, to do as far as hunting from the ground in the saddle is I've got a particular creek around here where I hunt, and there's no, the way the thermals work and they're always dropping down to the water, it's really, really tough to hunt it, especially in the evenings. And I figured out how to hunt it. I would cross the creek, get on the side where the deer are coming from. I literally tethered into a root wad coming out of the bank. So I'm essentially, I'm standing in the creek bed and I'm tethered to a root. The deer are coming in from above me and dropping down this historical trail that they have where they cross. And my thermals are dumping 3 feet behind me right into the water.
Nice.
You know, and it's they are not expecting that at all. You know, not even close. So that's a cool little ambush if the situation is there.
Yeah, that is cool. I really like what you said about just taking the weight off your knees, because I feel like that's a question that I get a lot, is how do you stay comfortable? And I think the reason that I'm able to stay comfortable is I just don't sit still, which is not necessarily a good habit as a hunter. I feel like I've gotten to where, you know, I know my limits with it, and I don't feel like I'm spooking deer because I'm moving around, but I stand up a lot. If I'm sitting on the ground, I just stand up a lot. But there's some situations where you just don't have that type of cover, where getting down low is important, but to be able to take the weight off your knees would help a lot.
That's what I run into a lot ground hunting. Is like, you have those spots where it's like, man, I really should be here. I should be patient, but God, my knees hurt. And then you really start to just move around and stand up a little bit. And I mean, it happens all the time. You stand up and it, like, God,
and
if I could just take that temptation out and take the pain out, that's I'm gonna have to try that out.
You know how it is. You kneel down on your knees, you put your butt on your heels, your toes are freaking bent 90 degrees, and you're good for all of about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And toes start falling asleep. You know, it just starts hurting. It sucks. But if you got that saddle to where you can just pick yourself up off of your heels, you know, as high as you want, really, to where your feet are just kind of sitting down there, your toes aren't crushed, and like I said, you can kind of knee walk around that tree. It's the real thing. It works well.
Yeah, that is a good idea. That's definitely something that I haven't thought about. I mean, I've seen the one that comes to mind recently. Aaron put the saddle just up above the water in Arkansas. I don't know if you've seen that video. A really nice buck comes in, and they didn't get a shot. He had a small shooting lane, and it just didn't work out. But his setup, him and Greg were together, and there was all these small trees that were super small, so he couldn't get up high to get out of the view. But it was also like wet and with that much water on the ground, so he's not just going to kneel in the water. So they just put their platforms just above it and kind of use the tree as cover, and I thought that was pretty cool too. It's just, there's all these different applications, and I mean, for that matter, you could do that type of stuff if you were waterfowl hunting, right? It's like you could probably get yourself in a situation where you're hanging off that thing with a shotgun shooting, you know, wood ducks coming in. It'd be probably pretty fun and pretty effective.
I've seen guys set their coffee thermos, their breakfast, all kinds of stuff on, you know, like hunting ducks. We used the HIS strap down in Arkansas a couple years ago, you know, our gear hanger. We put that around the tree and hang our shotguns, and it just so happens that the bill of a mallard or a wood duck drops right into those slots and just kind of hang there. So
Perfect.
Yeah, it's multi-purpose gear.
Absolutely. So I guess we should talk about the newest gear, something that I'm super excited about. I know you're excited about, and I think is just overall, I don't know, some wizard work of yours, and I'm really impressed with it, and I know the rest of the group's excited about it as well. Talk about a little bit of that, and like from, I don't know, what does that even go back to? Like, do you remember the original meeting date? Because I do for sure. What was it?
It was let's see, we're going into 23, so it would have been Iowa Deer Classic of 21. Yeah. We all met in a conference room, and you guys literally bugged out right after that meeting, got in a car and drove down to Florida or somewhere to go turkey hunting.
Yep.
So yeah, it was all of us there together. from our side and your side, and we met for a solid hour and a half, and I left out of there scared out of my mind. I've got, everybody knows you're a different animal, right? From like Aaron, and yeah, Ben, you should have seen this. I mean, it was, I've got Zach over here telling me he's highly caffeinated by this point.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well.
That's a given.
So he's telling me everything that he wants out of a turkey vest or harness or whatever setup. And then I got Aaron over here on the other side, and he's telling me what he wants. And then I got Jake and Ted and Greg and everybody throwing in, different things. So the idea of making it modular came along pretty quick. And lucky for me, if I said I didn't get ideas and certain things that I utilized in this build from existing products, I'd be lying. I mean, to reinvent the wheel truly is a very, very rare thing. It can very rarely be done. A lot of times you're improving on things that are already there, or taking an idea that wasn't quite fully realized and making it and taking it the rest of the way. That happens a lot. And in a lot of cases too, what I've found to be very true is that you're taking something old and making it new again. You're bringing new life into it. And, you take I've got this one here set up. You take the M2, for instance, and,
I got my M2 too.
Yes, you do.
Here, hold that.
Yeah.
You take
This is Ben's. This is Ben's first moment holding it.
Man.
He stepped
Okay.
on it, but
What do you think? What do you think of that fabric? First of all, Ben.
It's different than anything I've felt before.
you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Stealth Strip. It reminds me of what I have all over all my other gear to keep stuff quiet.
Yeah.
But an actual solid fabric version of that.
Yes. So that feel and that stealth strip performance that we all know and love, that was like what I was really, really wanting to accomplish. Now, that with the first prototypes, obviously that wasn't the case. It was 1,000. It was 1,000 Decor Dura, which is like about as bomb-proof and stiff and loud of a material as you can get. But it's what I had to get the samples out. But that was a whole other deal. But yeah, I knew I wanted to have this type of material as a final product, and the Stealth Strip was kind of my guide to that. Stealth Strip is a very the material itself. It's actually a micro fleece, is what it is, and it's strong, but it's pretty heavy. It's pretty thick, and I knew that I was going to be laminating it to something else, and so I didn't want it to get too heavy, and stuff like that, and hold a lot of water if it got wet, and of course that's all dependent on what you laminate it to in other situations. So yeah, this is basically a lighter weight version of that. This outer material, and I laminated it to a thinner Cordura material, and oddly enough, it had never been done before by anybody that we knew, as far as we know.
Did you patent it?
This is obviously mossy oak bottomland, right?
Yeah.
And so whenever we were having the conversation with those guys, because we knew we wanted the first gen M2 to be in the bottomland, we were having that conversation, and they're telling me, "Oh yeah, we got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fabrics, of things we've developed over the years." And I'm like, "Sweet, this is going to be easy." It didn't exist. What I wanted it wasn't there, and I told them what I wanted to make, and they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's glue these together." And they're like, "Whatever, man." So they just didn't, and granted, they didn't know exactly what I was trying to do either, as far as the whole modularity and the Swiss Army knife aspect of it. So they didn't know, and I got the sample of it in, and they nailed it right out of the gate. It was exactly what I wanted. The sample came in. I'm bar tacking webbing to it and other pieces of material, and I'm trying to break it and tear it and carrying on, and it's perfect. It was absolutely perfect. And so that's how we ended up with this. And because it's a new thing and we kind of created it, we're calling it Whisper Tough.
Nice.
Whisper quiet on the outside and tough as nails on the inside.
There you
So
go.
it gives you the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think that part of it was really important to me because in the past, and I mean, from meeting one, we talked about how you can get something that, maybe has a lot of the aspects of it that you like, but then it'll be loud, or there's parts of it that are loud. And, even with the prototype, it was like, it's coming together, it's looking right, but the sound, when not as much when you're turkey hunting, but when you're deer hunting, that's really, really important. And I think one thing that I feel like I don't want to skip out on is mentioning the fact that we put this together initially as a turkey vest, but then it really just continued to evolve into, because I think then when we talked about roughly a year later, about a year ago at the ATA show, we were talking about how it would be really nice if we could just have it for both turkey and deer. And I feel like it really ended up just playing out perfectly.
When I designed the prototypes and them being modular like they were, I thought that you guys would end up doing exactly what you did with it. Jake especially, I swear he slept in that thing out west.
He did.
Every time I turned around, he had that thing strapped to him. And so he was proving my theory that it was going to be a year-round vest that you could configure and make it work for whatever you're doing. And still, just today, I figured out 2 more configurations for it that take it into the fishing realm.
Nice.
You can set it up chest rig style. It just keeps going on and on. But yeah, after I saw you guys running it in the deer woods, I knew that it was going to work out, and I knew that the fabric that we were going to make it out of was going to be spot on for everything, for the durability and the silence.
Yeah, it's so quiet.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, and I think that one of the specific things that we started noticing when comparing other vests that are on the market was when you get your back on the tree, like in a turkey hunting situation especially. And I know we've talked about it from a strategy standpoint. It's like you really have to make that conscious effort when a bird's close. Like, let's say he's just over the ridge and he's on the verge of gun range, or he's in gun range, and you make that move and your back just across the tree. It's like you have to almost be like, okay, I'm going to make the move. I got to lean forward. And I mean, to a certain degree, you have to do that to be able to move, efficiently. But with this, I just don't think that you're going to make nearly the noise you would with things that we've used in the past. Like that big Cabela's vest that you have right now. Like, that's notorious for that back scratching.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that was really important to us. And that kind of brings up a question. Because I feel like you probably remember some of the specifics. What were some of the things that when we're giving you, and it's hilarious because I felt bad. I always felt bad after I'd get done talking about it with you, and especially when it was multiple of us, because it's like, dude, we're throwing like these impossible things at Carl. Like, we're just like, yeah, dude, like, if you could get this, but also, in the meantime, make it do this. And it's like, but you always just took it well, and you could always tell that you were, the wheels were turning and you were going to come up with something. But I really did, especially after that first one when it's all of us. We're just literally throwing like a million things at him, and it just got. I'm not surprised that we freaked you out a little on that.
No, it got better pretty quick. Once, I mentioned taking something old and making it new again. And that would be, with your laser cut moly and using the malice clips. I don't have it right here. Yeah, I do right here. So these malice clips, this is an old military item. It's been around forever. They come in all the pockets on the M2. You know, it's just these plastic little clips, and you know that you lace them through the moly and you plug it in. And you know the versatility of these, especially on the horizontal pockets on the vest, allows you to. I'm just gonna throw this on real quick so you can kind of see. And I got a little special touch on here for you, Zach. There goes my phone. It's still working. Yeah. So I basically this particular rig I have set up, I think pretty much how I think you're going to run it based on your request, which is basically the belt, the bladder, the yoke, probably not a seat if I'm guessing.
No. No, that's the only
am
part.
I right on that?
Yeah, it's the only part I didn't bring.
Okay. But you might want to add this to your arsenal right here. I'm going to plug this in real quick. And all this is a horizontal pocket with the malice clips moved out to the outer edges. And now we have a full-blown chest rig right here that you can, you know, I can cinch it down, make it tighter, loosen it. I can take the sternum strap, move it up and down, and it shelves out really, really nice.
Nice.
See that?
Yeah.
You actually create this little shelf.
You know how many camera
that
batteries
was
you
just
can
a
fit in
little
there?
thing came up with today. So yeah, this is a horizontal pocket that's actually originally designed to go down on the belt. And I mean, this is how easy it is. Get this. And also you can unhook it and it'll just hang there on the one side. It won't fall down to the ground. So you don't have to worry about dropping it in the water or anything like that. So that was simply by putting malice clips on the far ends of that laser cut squadron. And yeah, so now you've got a nice little tilt out pocket.
Sweet.
Ben, here you can kind of see, you know, this is kind of an array that you can do.
So is this one of
these
the
pockets?
Is this like
Essentially,
open up
That's how I've set mine up for now. But what's cool about it, so for those listening that can't see, there's all these little, I guess, organizers is what you would call them. So you can put your.
They're just I kind of call them I call them like call accessories, because primarily, you know, they're made to hold your pot calls. Yeah, like you said, for the people who can't see this, we've got each M2 kit's going to come with 2 of your pot call holders. You know, I've got a little Woodhaven in there. I've got 12 gauge shotgun shells here. But each one comes with 2 of the shotgun shell holders. But you can see I've got shotgun shells here, but then on the outside, you turn that, you can unvelcro that, turn it sideways. There you go. Strikers, just like that.
See, I knew there was going to be some things that I was going to learn, because I've got this conditioning thing up here where my mouth call holder could go, but now I know I can go back here.
Yep, there's a little slit pocket right back there.
Oh yeah, right there. Nice.
Yep.
Huh.
And you can also take. So this is one of the reed holders. So if you just want to run the reed, you can take these little dog bone attachments. Which one do I have on? Gosh, I got something going on. Here it is. I'm going to have a sea of mossy oak up here on the table in just a second. So right here, this one, this is the magnetic one. Now, this was a direct request of Aaron. He absolutely, this was a must, because he loves to carry his calls right there. So there's the boxes of diaphragm calls.
Nice.
So you can take that off, and you could put this on the shoulder strap if you want, or vice versa. So they're made with this slit in the back of them that the little attachment goes through. So that's how they hook up to the yoke. But then you can just Velcro it right on.
Nice.
Now I actually took one of these, and so this is a Woodhaven, that stone, that conditioning stone, and I just drop it in there like that, and it sits inside one of my pockets. But again, it's made for the diaphragms, but you can use it for whatever you want.
Yeah, and I feel like on top of that too, just being able to pull these things off and move them gives you the ability to kind of set it up however is most efficient for you, because we all have these different little, ways of putting a call somewhere, or just how quickly you can drop things in and out. And like something that I told so many people about, because I think it's cool, visualizing a specific situation. Previously, I walk around if I'm trying to strike a turkey, and I've got this pot call and I've got a striker, right? And I would put it in my pocket. The risk with that is not necessarily that I'm going to lose it, but I get moisture because I sweat a lot. And then those pants, you start getting sweat on the tip of your striker or, on your glass.
Right.
And that becomes a problem. So to prevent that on at least the call side, I'd always just put the cap back on it, stick it in the pocket. But then, and it's silly. It's not like it really takes that much time. But with this, you can just drop it right on this outside pocket. So you can drop it there. Now what you can't see is that goes all the way through. So you can just stuff this right down in there. And if you need it to go all the way in, I mean, it's not coming out. So just from an efficiency standpoint, like visualizing the specific situation of I'm walking down a logging road and every little drainage that I hit, I'm calling into it. Instead of putting it back in my pocket, it's like I can just drop it right there, which, I mean, pretty slick.
Exactly what you just said is how I killed my second bird last year.
Nice.
In the prototype vest. I was on a ridge, so it was late morning, and I was actually looking for morels. I had some dead elms marked up there on that ridge, and I was looking for those morels. And I'd stop about every 50 or 60 yards and pull out that call and striker, just like you said. It lived right here in this stretch pocket. Striker there, and then pot call. Just like that. So it was that quick. You could just bump it out like that. And that's what I was actually doing, looking for mushrooms whenever I struck up those two birds and ended up getting one of them.
You need a mushroom bag attachment.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Actually, the bird bag for the turkey would work fairly well.
Yeah.
You have to be careful, though, so you wouldn't crush your mushroom.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say next, though. I feel like that's a part that we've almost skipped over, is which is probably, in my opinion, the coolest part, is the ability to interchange that, essentially the entire system. Like you can have two totally different systems depending on what your preference is, or maybe what the given day is, or the given hunt, or maybe from turkey to deer season. Talk a little bit about the two styles and just how you came up with the idea to do both of those, because I think it ended up just being pretty slick.
Well, again, this is something that's not reinventing the wheel, just making a sexier, shinier one.
Nice.
We, Greg and I both, with our prior military and me with law enforcement, have been handling and carrying tactical vest of some kind or another, for a long time. And you learn how those kits work, especially when you're in a SWAT scenario, because every guy's different. You're going to put all your stuff in different locations depending on whether you're left or right-handed, or what your position is on the team and what kind of gear you need. Then you can do that. And I knew that was the answer for this, because essentially it had never been done on a platform like this. When you buy a turkey vest, you get what you get. If you don't run a box call and you get this big spot right here where a box call is supposed to go, I guess you stick a bottle of water in there or something if it'll fit. But it kind of sucked because it was there and you didn't really want it there. You could have used something else there. So once those wheels started turning, then the mission became pretty clear as far as what this thing needed to do. And the hookup on the yoke, just, very basic. but it was just made to be extremely modular. So yeah, that bird bag, Ben, it hooks right up to the same spot on the yoke.
Nice.
And carries just as nice.
So you can
And
interchange. Go ahead.
You'll feel that stiff section there in the back of that yoke.
Yeah.
So all that webbing and all that is stitched all the way through that. And what that does is that keeps this yoke from ever collapsing under a load. It cannot collapse in on itself. So it stays comfortable, and it sends all the weight right up over the shoulder straps on the yoke where it's supposed to go.
Nice.
So one of the things I thought of, or how I wanted this kit to function, since I've been on enough backcountry elk hunts with frame packs and stuff, I wanted this to kind of adjust and be able to operate like that. So the waist belt actually is designed to go right over the point of your hips, just like a frame pack. And then you can distribute your load, however much percentage you want to carry on your hips versus your shoulders. You can adjust that. On the back of it has the cinch straps on the sides of let's see if I can point them out here, like on the hydro pack. So these tie into the waist belt, and you can cinch this thing all the way up against your back. The bird bag has the same thing. So when you get a load in there, you can draw that thing in as tight to your center of gravity as you can get it, and you're not going to have a problem, carrying a lot of weight in there.
Which is
second bird I killed. I put him in there and cinched him down, and he became part of my back.
Yeah.
And I walked out with him like nothing.
Dude, I could totally see this being something you bring if a guy was to go elk hunt and like base camp somewhere. Just throw the extra few pounds in there, and then you have your pack for the day. Like totally comfortable, and all the calls you need, the food you need, the water you need, filter, everything.
Extra layer, which was another thing that we had talked about, making a bladder that was, or a bladder carrier that wasn't adding like a full-size backpack, but is still enough that you got a lot of versatility with just that alone. I mean, you fill that water bladder up and you've still got enough room to put, a decent amount of gear back there. Here
you go. This is a very full 3-liter Source 1 bladder in here. And it fits. And I have a ton of space that I can load this thing out on top of that 3 liters of water that's already there. And it's got separated storage. We've got those 2 zipper pockets in there for even more stuff. And then we have the big stretch pocket on the outside of that. And then we have our bungee cord with cord lock on top of that. So this little jewel right here, just by itself, does a lot.
Yeah.
It's very, it's physically, it's not that big.
Which I really like. I really like that.
So this was all for you, Zach. Based on our conversations, I pretty much knew what you were after as far as, I knew what you wanted to haul in it at a minimum, and you didn't want it to be that much bigger, because then you get to a point of diminishing returns for what you're trying to accomplish. So yeah, I think this worked out pretty well on that. And speaking of this, here's the new one we just came up with today. So this is, you see all that? This is just a yoke and the hydration pack. That's all it is. So the yoke hooks in like normal, get it real short. And this is really cool. These ladder locks right here on the sides that are made to attach and cinch down to the waist belt. Well, now they're pulling double duty. I basically took the backpack strap on the front of the yoke and pulled it all the way down to where that metal 3-bar slider that goes into your waist belt is now all the way up here at the top. And now I've taken the tail end of the strap of the yoke strap, and I've threaded it through here. And now I've made a fully adjustable water bladder harness with the sternum strap on it and everything. Yeah, so something you might want to play with, Zach. I don't know, because you can this chest rig.
Yeah.
with that chest rig, that's high speed right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like jump out of the truck and run, type thing.
Something else that I had mentioned and was a complete, classic initial meeting type of conversation. I don't know if you remember this, but I said, I want to wear it in the vehicle. Like, I don't want to have to take it off every time we get in and out. And everybody else is kind of like, well, I mean, you could just take it off. And it's like, yeah, but I don't want to. And one of the very first things I did was I was going over to my parents' house the other night, and I just got home from the NWTF show, and I wanted to show it to my dad, and I hopped in my girlfriend's car in the passenger seat, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're going to be able to wear this and not have to take it off. I mean, there's obviously going to be times where it's just like, I got to get this, I've been wearing it all day, whatever. But it's like, if you're hopping from spot to spot, hopping out, hitting locator calls, stuff like that, that's the reason I like having it at all times, because one of the worst things that I feel like happens, especially when you're hunting with multiple people, I know we've been there, is you hop out, you hit a locator call, you get a bird, it's like, oh, he's right here. And then everybody's got to scramble to get their stuff, where it's like, if everybody's pretty much ready and you can just grab, shotgun and camera or whatever, in most situations for most people, just shotgun, then, having your vest on can be handy in those situations. And
one less thing to leave on the side of the road.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
And
and the little hydro pack's great for that, because even with that full 3-liter bladder in there, I could totally lean against that for a 2-mile trip down the road to get to another spot or whatever. It's not a problem at all.
No.
And the bird bag, it's it goes even flatter. The way that it folds up, that worked out really well, because it's super flat against your back. I think a lot of, once you start getting out in the wild and guys are showing them to their buddies and they're using them, I think that a lot of guys who have kind of been turned off by traditional style bird bags in the past are really, really going to like this thing.
I like it, and I don't like, I'm one of those guys. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'll start by saying this thing impressed the hell out of me, because I was like, okay, that's something I could really see myself using, and I didn't expect to think that. I expected it to be like, oh yeah, that'll be my style, and somebody else will use this. And as soon as I saw it and actually saw how much it cinches down, it changed my opinion on him completely.
I like that you did the mesh all the way around the bottom too, because I noticed, the pack I have is solid on the bottom, and I've had blood pool up in there. I've had morels rot in there.
Yeah.
A lot of nasty stink.
Becomes a trash bag.
Yeah, it's just your freaking trash bag. But that, drainage, and it'll just keep everything dry too. Mm-hmm. That's
well, you'll notice. So the mesh that's in the M2, it's the same stuff we've used in our saddles. Mm-hmm. It's actually the exact same mesh that's in the Phantom saddle.
Yeah.
And what it's designed to do and its characteristics, I was like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. It's just such a good type of material, and it only made sense to use it in certain parts of this.
So my question here is, it can hold a guy up in a tree. What do you think the weight? Have you done testing to see what the weight load you could put in a pack like this would be?
Oh, I haven't.
I'm saying all day you can fit. This is what I'm stoked about. I'm saying all day, and I could be wrong. You're fitting at least a bit. You could fit at least a big buck hindquarter in that thing. That's my guess.
At least, yeah.
I think you could easily carry it. Yeah. That's probably one of the things I was most excited about. It's like, dude, you could put that on. You could go deer hunting and have literally everything you need, and you could probably get a quarter or most of a deer out with just this. Versus.
Well, you'll be the first one to do it. I haven't tried that yet, but I'm as far as the structure, the construction, the design, and the materials, it will for sure do it.
Yeah.
Will it be the most comfortable thing? No, it won't. But that's part of what we do, right?
Right.
We're not out there always to, if we wanted that, we just sit on the couch.
Yeah. Well, we could get more uncomfortable by dragging it up and over three or four ridges.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it'll it'll pretty much haul whatever you're going to want to put in it in that
Yeah.
type of scenario. And that's where that yoke I just showed you with that piece of plastic in it is really going to shine.
Yeah.
When you start putting that kind of weight in there,
Yes.
it's going to keep that yoke nice and shaped and sending the weight distributing across and over your shoulders like it should be. And then again, it's a very robust belt system on the waist belt too. So again, like adjusting a frame pack, cinch that sucker down and really bear the load on your hips versus your shoulders.
Yeah, we should test
and
that
since
out.
each one of these, they marry right in to the waist belt identically with this good Velcro connection. I mean, this is just the Velcro cover over here. But if I move that out of the way, so we've got a 4-inch by 6-inch solid Velcro connection, just for starters. And then, you throw the top part over and then add the secondary closure. And then the cinch straps. Here's the cinch straps I was talking about right there.
Oh, yeah.
You cinch those suckers down after you load up and get that load in tight to you. You're going to be doing something. You're going to be doing a lot with something very, very small.
Yeah.
Overall.
Well, and I mean, thinking from the application of stalking or hunting or mobile hunting, like these are the highlights that stick out to me and some of the main complaints. And if there's anything that I leave out, either one of you, because I know you guys have both heard me complain about things I've used in the past. Number one complaint that I've had with pretty much every single vest or hunting pack or I guess day pack is, but more specifically with turkeys, is when I go left, it's like it's trailing so far behind. If I take a hard left, it's like it's a 2 steps behind me. It's like dragging behind, and that like whipping and just loose. It just drives me crazy. And some of those bigger, bulkier vests that I've had in the past, like what I had, really until I started using that Night and Hail one, that was the number one issue, is when you have this big wide bird bag that was always way wider than I was, that's getting hung up on stuff, and then it's also like a couple steps behind you when you make these moves. On top of that, when you're getting down in position and you're making, you're crawling, stalking in, and you've got all these things hanging off the side of you again that are wider than you, that you can't cinch down, drove me up the wall. It's like, and how many times have over the years, dude, just take the vest off? Like,
I'm sure we could pull a pretty hilarious clip up.
Yeah, I
remember, Zach, that was a very adamant request of yours.
Yes.
That you wanted to be able to basically crawl
in
it if you had to.
Yep.
And everything stayed tight to your body.
Yep.
And this does.
I don't like taking things off, I kind of think of a rule of elk hunting with a pack on when you're way out there is don't take your pack off and leave it, because the next thing you know, you turn around and you're like, where did I put that? And I kind of try to live by that, because there's just been so many situations where going back to get something that was left behind becomes an issue. So if I can wear everything at all times, have my water at all times, and it's all just with me, then there's no concern of losing anything. So that plays into that as well. And like to your point about finding a clip, there, I know I have a Snapchat of me cussing at you from back on one of our hunts together, where he's got his big vest on and it's all over the place and it's moving, it's making noise. I can tell it's driving him crazy, and I'm just finally like, get it off, just get it off, because like I know you don't want, like it's hindering your abilities, so that's annoying to me. And then the thing that was my biggest complaint once I started using the Night and Hail vest, which I actually noticed when the first video that was made from the NWTF, where this was kind of the launch of this, or the announcement of it, I guess, probably the most negative feedback I saw was that, oh, you guys just ripped off the Night and Hail run and gun. And while I will be the first person to say that is absolutely an option if you want to go for a lightweight vest. But what I like about this above that, there's so many small details that makes this so much superior. Now, again, I'm biased, so take that for what it's worth. And I'm not going to sit here and say that there aren't other options or that is a bad option. I loved wearing that thing. But I'm super fired up about this because the thing that drove me crazy about that was, for one, the whole left side of it has the built-in pot call holders and box call holder. It's essentially useless on the left side for especially deer hunting. And even when I was turkey hunting, I didn't really use those pot call holders necessarily. They got torn up, and I guess that was kind of disappointing from that end of it. But the hip belt was the biggest thing for me, because as light as that thing was and as light as this thing is, you put the water bladder in there and you put your calls and a little bit of food and stuff like that, the stuff that you would need just to get through a day of hunting. And it isn't that big of a deal, but day in and day out, you wear that, and it does start to wear on your shoulders, and it makes my posture, I can tell my posture starts to become sacrificed because I'm just getting pulled down by the shoulders. So with the hip belt, the solid plastic piece in the yoke there, and the ability to cinch all that stuff down and be tight to me is the only thing that I've got that is like that is my big bulky, backpacking backpack. That thing tightens down, but I don't like, it's too big for day hunting. Like, it would be great if I could take it down to this size, but it just doesn't. That's not what the purpose of that is. And
to me, that's the niche that y'all just made here. Is like between like very cheap vest or like run and gun setup, and then between the giant frame pack that we have that works really well when you're carrying whatever 70 liters of gear. There's like a huge gap there.
Yep.
And like this totally fits in it.
Yeah, and I feel like
definitely a day pack, if not a couple. Yep, you can fit quite a bit in here.
Yep, and then on top of that, just the ability to switch pockets out. I mean, you got horizontal pockets, you got vertical pockets. You've obviously shown the chest rig. These little organizers that you can move around. There's just so well, and then on top of it, we're talking about a vest that's made out of stealth strip. It's like, it's so quiet, and it just, I mean, it really, let's put it this way. I knew that we were giving you a ridiculous challenge, a challenge that I can honestly say deep down, I thought, man, we're being too far-fetched. Like, I knew you'd come up with something awesome, but I'm like, there's no way it's going to hit, the needs of me and Jake and Warb and Ted and Greg, because we all have a different style and we all have different junk that we like to carry. But this does. And I think that no matter what your style is, whether you're a, turkey hunter that wants to carry every call that you've ever owned, or you're like me and you want to carry, a couple diaphragms and a couple strikers and a pot call, and some water, or you want to go deer hunting and you want to carry your saddle with you. I think this does all those things, because on top of it, there's so many different ways you could slap your platform on the bladder or on the bird bag and put the saddle in the bladder or the bird bag. I mean, you can obviously wear the saddle, but when you start talking about it that way too, it's like, this literally, in my opinion, covers the turkey hunter, the deer hunter that wants to stalk hunt, and the deer hunter that wants to use a saddle, platform, and sticks. And I think that's pretty unique.
What you're looking for.
And now I'm finding out it's going to cover the river fisherman that likes to wade fish.
Yeah.
I mean,
and we're that too.
That well too.
Yeah. And we are that.
Another thing this does, and so, we did all the how to build your vest videos right before NWTF started. And those are going to be awesome. Those should probably be up in the next week or so, I'm guessing. So that's going to show everybody how to build their kit whenever they get it. But it also, to your point, it shows the difference of what Aaron likes and what Jake likes and what Greg likes to carry. We covered all of that. Now, one thing we didn't cover, Jared Schaefer and I, our Ginger Ninja, we did a little side video just the other day. In your accessory kit, you're going to get these 2 plain straps. They're just plain, but they've got the 3-bar sliders hooked on the bottom. And what that allows you to do is you can actually hook up to the top of your yoke and then hook straight to your belt. If you don't want to carry a pack at all, you've still got your harness system.
Nice.
You don't have to have a bird bag. You don't have to have a hydration pack. You can just have your harness. And what's really cool about that is taking the horizontal pockets and running them on the sides. And then you take the verticals and you marry them up right behind them. So you can literally load up all 4 of these pockets on that. If you're that guy, if you want to keep everything on your hips, right there. And then you can keep your little, your calls or whatever else up top. Just another option. That's what this thing is all about is just the options. And heck, I built the dang thing and I'm still figuring out all of the things you can do with it. I can't wait for people to get their hands on these and we start seeing what guys are doing out in the field.
Yeah.
So run me.
Go ahead, Ben.
I was gonna say, so run me through. So I obviously haven't looked these up to buy them or anything yet. Literally just seeing this for the first time. But how is this sold? Is it like all modular to where you can kind of build your own system, or do you have like a base and then build off it?
So this is going to be a learning curve for all of us because obviously THP is going to be selling these, and so is Tethrd. But initially, right now, the offerings are you can buy it with the bird bag kit, or you can buy it with the hydration pack kit. Now, if you want both, you can absolutely buy both, but initially you choose one or the other. The horizontal pockets, 2 of those are going to come with each kit. Mm-hmm. And then the vertical pockets, if you want those, they're a little bit extra. They come in a pair. But I think at the end of the day, what's going to end up happening here, just because I know how hunters are and how quirky and versatile of a crowd they are, it's probably going to be in a completely a la carte offering. Before it's all said and done, I'm guessing, because right now when you buy your kit, you choose your belt. We've got the small, medium belt, which will take you from about a 27, 28-inch waist up to comfortably around 36. You get above 36, then we go into our large, extra large belt. There's going to be some guy that drops a ton of weight over the next year, and he's going to want a smaller belt. So he'll have to be able to buy a smaller belt. Mm-hmm. There might be another guy that spends too much time at Christmas dinner. He's going to need to go up to the next belt, So yeah, we're going to end up. I'd say before it's all said and done, it's going to be a completely a la carte. You just plug and play.
That's freaking sweet.
Yeah. So that's initially that's not how it's going to happen, but it's going to end up that way, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then plus, this is going to be the gift that keeps on giving. I'm already actively working on at least 4 accessories for next year for this kit. That'll be add-ons. That'll just plug right into it. So, yeah, it's good. It's really good.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just the thing that we've learned about you, Carl. You're always going to be thinking about the next thing, and I think that's really cool. And we're lucky to have you. Tethrd's lucky to have you. It's, pretty amazing, man. Like I said, there was many a times where I'd think, man, I don't know. Like we're giving him way too many things to try to tackle all in one piece of gear. But you did it. And the guys had seen it before I had. I got to NWTF a little bit late, and the first thing Mindy actually said to me was, "I'm not even going to tell you. We're just going to film your reaction to it." It's like,
oh yeah,
yeah, because she knew that I would like it. She knew whether she knew or everybody was like, "Oh, Zach's going to like it," and I really, really am stoked about it. And I think that, again, I would always say, everybody has their preference. Maybe something else works for you, and I'm not trying to sway. I don't think anybody's necessarily trying to say, you got to buy this. This isn't necessarily, I didn't want to do this podcast to make you buy the thing. I just wanted to do the podcast with Carl because I think that it was super creative to come up with this. You did it. An amazing job. And I'm just super stoked about it from, honestly, if nobody ever buys one, at least I got what I want. Right, dude?
No, I thank you for that. I got the best job on the planet. Yeah. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I've had a lot of jobs, and this definitely has its fair share of stressors, different types of stressors than other jobs. But this is hands down one of the most rewarding things I've ever made.
It's your legacy, man.
It just fell together. It just did. And I know you guys were worried. You mentioned a couple times you didn't think that this was going to like turn into something. I have this tendency, and I'm bad at it too. I'll get all this crap floating around up here, and I don't share it with anybody. And I've been systematically building this thing in my head for months, right? And that's kind of one of the things I do is that I'll basically build it in stages mentally before I even go sit down in front of a sewing machine, because I don't want to waste my time on something that I'm gonna spend hours and hours prototyping something and then get a different take on it, and it gets a lot of adaptations that it just becomes garbage, or I'm in the middle of it and I think of something different. So I really try to mull through everything over a pretty long period of time. And yeah, I knew you guys were probably stressing a little bit.
I don't even know
what was going on.
Yeah, it's like I don't even know that I would call it stress as much as I would call it like there's too many demands, because of how different everybody is. And I remember that initial meeting being like, there's just no way this is going to work because we're trying to hit everybody. And I think we even talked about it in the meeting where it's like, well, maybe it's just got to be only targeted to this one very specific group. And I think, sure, maybe the majority of the people that will get this are on the side of run and gun mobile hunting. But with that being said, we just talked about how many styles it covers just in the one, base product. And I just am, impressed. There's excited, and people are going to find what works for them in it. I know they will.
Right. Mm-hmm. There's something to be said, especially in the turkey realm, for being able to have a quote unquote turkey vest and truly make it your own, to where you're not restrained to what is offered.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Because unfortunately, and I'm not saying this in all cases, but unfortunately, in a lot of cases, when it comes to R&D and design, the company will whip out 5 or 6 of them and give them to 5 or 6 guys, and they take a vote. Well, you want this pocket, this pocket, this pocket. Okay, well, 4 out of the 6 say I want it here, but then when you extrapolate that over hundreds to thousands of customers, it's terrible. It's terrible, because you get a large pool of people who hate that, whatever it is, wherever it's at, they don't like it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do away with all that. I wanted it to be completely customizable to what the individual wants. I want it to be lightweight. I wanted it to breathe. I did not want you to feel like you're wearing a sleeping bag at 10:30 in the morning when you're trying to strike a bird up and you're covering ground. I wanted it to fit like a leech to your body if you want it to, so you can absolutely bolt over to another ridge. So yeah, it was a lot. Like Zach said, it was a lot to cover. But the base system and having the military background, law enforcement background, it all lended itself to this coming together.
Yeah.
Good freaking job, man. This is sweet.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Carl, and I appreciate you taking the time, man. I know we've taken up a lot of your time, and it's been a really awesome conversation. I learned things about it. I knew I would, and yeah, it's just all around been fun. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us, man.
yeah, I've enjoyed it a lot. And yeah, since you weren't there at the videoing for the how-to, you're gonna have to watch them yourself.
I know. I know.
So
you were saying that earlier, and I was like, well, I got something that I might have to watch because I'll probably officially learn my style of how to work it once I watch those how-to videos.
No, I saw how you had it put together there at NWTF, and I knew whenever I came up to see you at the Vortex booth, I already knew how you were going to have it set up, and you did. So good on you.
It's awesome. And you know, the beauty of it is I can try all the different things. And like I said, too, I really am fired up about this because I could really see this being a deal where we figure out how to go in really deep and not have to go back to the truck. Like, we killed a buck a couple of years ago, 2 miles back from the truck in some seriously gnarly terrain, and luckily we had a whole crew of guys back at the truck, but we went all the way back to the truck. I think from the time we got him down, I think my tracker, I think I still have it, but it ended up being like, from the time we got him down to when we actually got him out, it was 6 miles or 7 miles or something, and it's just like, if you have to go do those multiple trips and you don't have a crew waiting at the truck, something like this, even if you can just get a quarter out uncomfortably to get the ball rolling, if you're going to have to make those 2 trips anyway, at least get one part of them out of there before you have to go back. And I think that's where, again, it just takes it to a whole nother level of options. And it's
you know, we're going to get into the later on this year, we'll be doing some more videos together. We'll once we get closer to deer season and start covering a lot more, you know, whitetail specific stuff that this kit will do. You know, one of the things is, where's this hydration pack? The hydration pack is, this was a request of either Ted or Jake or both of them, a little thing that you wouldn't even think about. But this tab loop right here, all these tab loops, this cordage is going through, on my original prototypes, this was 3/4 inch. And he said, hey, do you think we can figure out a way to use a compression kit on here to strap sticks or a platform to it? I'm like, done. Let's change it up to 1 inch. And now our compression kits plug right into this. So if you've got a fair amount of stuff in this hydration pack, you can take 1 sticks and just strap them right to it. Take a Predator, strap it right to it. Throw a Predator in that bird bag. It just goes on and on and on. So, yeah, I can't wait to see what you guys and everybody who ends up getting one of these, what they come up with. It's going to be a very cool year in the turkey woods and the whitetail space.
Yeah, we're all learning together.
Yeah,
we're all learning together on how to put it together.
Yeah, that's what's neat about it. Because I think I know this thing inside and out, and there's going to be somebody that pops up. Hey, look what I did.
Yeah, there's going to be another one of you that's sitting at home, you know, sewing little things together too. you know that's going to happen. So
I hope so. It's there's not enough gear makers out there. I really truly believe that if dudes would just take the time and just start punching thread and just start on little pouches and this and that, it evolves quick. You can really pick this skill up very fast if you stick with it. And obviously you got to be interested in it. You've got to like the process, you know, and you've got to be able to accept failure too. Because I've spent multiple hours on stuff just to deep six it, you know, and so yeah.
Cool. All right, man. Well, hey, thanks again, and we'll end it here, but I really appreciate you taking the time and teaching everybody about it and creating it. So thanks again. And yeah, thanks for everybody for listening. Thanks, Ben. And we'll catch everybody on the next one.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
No problem.